Why do some leaders, even in our modern age, seem to operate outside the bounds of conventional morality, playing by their own set of rules? Why do they often prioritize the consolidation of power and the maintenance of stability, sometimes at the expense of widespread popularity or ethical considerations? What motivates these decisions? The answer, surprisingly, often traces back to a book written over 5 centuries ago, a text that continues to resonate in the corridors of power. That book is The Prince by Niccolò Machiavelli. Machiavelli's name has become almost universally synonymous with cunning, political maneuvering, and a certain ruthlessness in the pursuit of power. But his ideas are anything but dusty relics of a bygone era. They are surprisingly alive and actively shaping our world today, influencing decisions at the highest levels. We might like to believe that we've evolved beyond the cold, calculated strategies of the past, that ethical considerations now reign supreme. However, Machiavelli's influence stubbornly persists, not only in the realm of politics, where it's perhaps most obvious, but also in the cutthroat world of business and far beyond the traditional spheres of power. He didn't concern himself with prescribing how people behave according to some moral ideal. Instead, he focused on documenting how they behave, often ruthlessly, when power is on the line, when everything is at stake. His work deliberately strips away layers of comforting idealism and naive assumptions about human nature. It exposes the often uncomfortable truths and harsh realities that underpin leadership and the exercise of power. As we delve into his complex and often controversial philosophy, we'll begin to understand how his fundamental questions about leadership, the role of fear as a motivator, and the ever-present tension between pragmatism and morality are still being fiercely debated and grappled with by today's leaders across the globe. Understanding Machiavelli isn't merely an academic exercise or a historical curiosity, it's an essential key to decoding the intricate power dynamics that continue to shape our world, influencing everything from international relations to our daily interactions. To truly understand the enduring impact and often controversial nature of The Prince, we need to delve into the life and times of its author. We must know Niccolò Machiavelli, the man behind the masterpiece, and the turbulent world that shaped his thinking. Understanding the context is key to unlocking the book's secrets. Born in Florence in 1469, Machiavelli entered a world brimming with both artistic brilliance and political intrigue. Machiavelli wasn't just an observer, he was a civil servant and a diplomat, deeply involved in the political machinations of the chaotic Renaissance. He served the Florentine Republic for 14 years. He witnessed firsthand the brutal realities of power, the forging of alliances, the delicate dance of diplomacy, but also the ever-present threat of betrayals, the backstabbing and conspiracies that were commonplace in the cutthroat world of Italian politics. He saw the rise and fall of leaders and the ultimate downfall of those who clung too tightly to ideals, refusing to adapt to the harsh realities of the time. After the Medici family, with their immense wealth and influence, overthrew his beloved republic and seized control of Florence, Machiavelli was not only removed from his position but also exiled from the city he loved. It was during this period of forced isolation that he wrote The Prince, not as an academic exercise but as a practical guide, a handbook for rulers seeking to navigate the treacherous waters of power. His goal was simple, yet revolutionary, to show how to gain and, more importantly, how to keep power in a world where traditional virtues like mercy and honesty often led not to success, but to utter ruin. Machiavelli boldly argued that a leader, in certain circumstances, must sometimes set aside conventional morality, those commonly held beliefs of right and wrong, for the greater good and long-term survival of the state. In a landscape defined by shifting alliances, constant warfare, and ever-present threats from rival city-states, only a strong, pragmatic, and sometimes ruthless leader could hope to secure Italy's fragile future. The Prince was, therefore, not just a theoretical treatise, but his detailed blueprint for survival, a practical guide for navigating a world where the ends often justified the means, no matter how unsavory they might seem. Machiavelli's most famous question, is it better to be loved or feared? He says, if you must choose, it's safer to be feared. Love is fickle, easily broken when self-interest intervenes. Fear, rooted in the threat of punishment, is a more reliable motivator, but he warns, don't be hated, hatred breeds rebellion. The trick is to enforce consequences without cruelty, maintaining respect without inspiring revolt. This logic appears today in tough corporate turnarounds or political leaders imposing unpopular but necessary reforms. Leaders may not win affection, but fear of worse outcomes can drive compliance and even success. Machiavelli's point effectiveness often matters more than popularity. The balance between fear and love remains a central challenge for leaders everywhere. Machiavelli never said, "The ends justify the means," but his work laid the foundation for this idea. He argued that leaders should be judged by results, not by the morality of their methods. Sometimes actions we'd normally condemn, deceit, betrayal, even violence, become necessary for the greater good. For Machiavelli, refusing to act ruthlessly when needed isn't virtue, it's failure. We see this today. Governments bending rules to prevent disaster, companies cutting corners to save lives. The ethical dilemma remains, does a good outcome excuse questionable actions? Machiavelli's challenge is as relevant now as ever, forcing us to weigh results against morality. Leaders must constantly decide, do the ends truly justify the means? Power isn't freely given, it's actively seized, often from those who mistakenly believe they possess it absolutely. It's a constant struggle, a dynamic interplay of forces where the strong assert their will. And once obtained, it must be vigilantly protected through a combination of skill, foresight, and strategic thinking. Fortifications alone are not enough. One must anticipate threats and adapt accordingly. Niccolò Machiavelli, in his seminal work, describes different paths to power, acknowledging that some are more treacherous than others. However, he consistently values ability, what he terms, above mere luck or inherited privilege. He believed that true leaders forge their own destiny. A successful leader, according to Machiavelli, must possess a deep understanding of both the masses and the elites within their domain. It's about more than just knowing them. It's about managing their often conflicting interests to maintain a stable and lasting control. He famously advises rulers to embody the characteristics of both the lion and the fox, strong enough to crush any emerging threats with decisive force, yet cunning and perceptive enough to anticipate and avoid hidden traps laid by enemies or rivals. This often means breaking promises when circumstances demand it, skillfully manipulating appearances to project an image that serves your interests, and acting ruthlessly and decisively when the situation requires it. All while carefully projecting an outward image of virtue and integrity. Today's leaders, whether in politics or business, often wear the mask of the fox in public, carefully cultivating a favorable image, while acting as lions behind the scenes, making tough decisions and consolidating their power. In the cutthroat world of business, for example, CEOs may publicly champion social responsibility and ethical practices while simultaneously and aggressively outmaneuvering their rivals in the marketplace. The true art of power lies in carefully balancing these two seemingly contradictory faces, maintaining a facade of public virtue while engaging in private calculation and strategic planning. Machiavelli's dual strategy, though centuries old, remains remarkably relevant and is alive and well in every arena where power is at stake, from the boardroom to the battlefield. Reading Machiavelli today is risky. His advice is often misunderstood as a license for tyranny. Stripped of context, his ideas can justify cruelty and self-interest. But Machiavelli's real aim was the survival of the state, not personal gain. His realism is a warning against naive idealism. Leaders who ignore harsh realities risk disaster, yet his advice to appear virtuous while acting otherwise can erode public trust and breed cynicism. When everyone expects manipulation, institutions crumble. The danger is a society where distrust rules and the public good is lost. We must read Machiavelli critically, seeing both his insights and his risks. Used wisely, his work helps us recognize and hold leaders accountable. What if society fully embraced a warped version of Machiavelli's advice? Leaders would pursue power for its own sake, with no regard for ethics or the public good. Deceit would be the norm, promises meaningless, alliances fleeting. Truth would vanish, replaced by propaganda and confusion. The economy would become a ruthless game, with people treated as disposable. The gap between the powerful and the powerless would become unbridgeable. In such a world, virtues like honesty and mercy would be mocked, and only the most ruthless would thrive. This is the danger of misreading Machiavelli, a society that breeds endless tyrants and loses its soul. Machiavelli's ideas still echo in the halls of power, shaping leaders and institutions centuries later. His core lessons, fear over love, ends over means, the fox and the lion, remain powerful tools for understanding leadership. But the risk is clear. When leaders use his methods without a sense of public duty, trust and virtue erode. Machiavelli forces us to confront hard truths about power and human nature. His work is a diagnosis, not a prescription. By recognizing his strategies, we become more discerning citizens and demand better from our leaders. The path forward is to engage critically, discuss openly, and insist on leadership that balances effectiveness with ethics. Only then can we build a world that is both stable and just. As we close this exploration of Machiavelli's timeless influence, remember, the power to shape our world lies not just in the hands of leaders, but in each of us. By questioning, learning, and holding those in charge accountable, we become the architects of a brighter future. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you found value in today's video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Let's keep the conversation going, and together, make positive change possible.